We have Joseph Radhik, founder of Stories by Joseph Radhik, talking to about his stunning work. Please welcome Joseph on stage.
So we have two rules for today. Oh, that's my face up there. Okay. One is when you see a nice image, don't just go, right? Don't go internally, go ooh loudly, right? Please. It helps me. So I know the kind of photos you like. I'm a photographer, by the way. The second part is that if something resonates with you, lift up your hand and just do a click, right? If something, because we work in very similar industries, and I'll tell you how. Yeah, now let's get started. Yeah, so along the way to Pune, I was coming down from Bombay, and I got stuck for a good 65 minutes at the Lonavala. There's some under construction thingy going on there. So at that time, this presentation was called The Story of Stories, which is the name of my company. And then I scratched it out and I said, okay, you know what, from whatever I've seen, people are talking about themselves, and so here I'm going to talk about myself. So I scratched out all the slides and hopefully made an interesting little presentation. Before we get there, my company is based out of Bombay. We are a 5-year-old wedding photography firm. There are 24 of us today, including 12 full-time photographers. We've been blessed to receive a lot of accreditation and acclaim around the world. It's up there on the slide. I am currently a Sony Global Ambassador, which means that I get free cameras, and I get to try out new things before they're launched. It's lots of fun. And we are currently the makers of the most iconic Indian wedding photo of this decade, is what I would like to say. And it is this one. So, so that's who we are in a very short nutshell. But this is not the only kind of wedding we do. We do a variety of weddings. We've been doing this. I've been photographing since January 2nd, 2010, and I'll tell you a little bit about that as well. It started here in Pune, right here with a few people in this room, in fact, so I'm going to tell you that. But before we get there, these are the kind of weddings we do. From very, very, very small, you know, how many guests do you count here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that kid. That's the full wedding, right? And then the bride and groom, and me. To something like this. So this is a very interesting number. October 26, 2012, 144,000 people in Haridwar. This is not a joke, right? From 37 different countries. Spiritual leader, etc., etc. We were the only photography team there. You know, looking back, I would love to shoot this again when we have drones. Then we do weddings like this. This was in Rome, over the city. The only wedding in the Villa Medici, to a couple shoot in the lavender fields, to Hanoi, Vietnam, to a poolside mandap in Mykonos, to Ichal Karanji. Does anybody know this in Maharashtra? Yeah? So one of our office boys got married, and we don't leave anybody in the team, so we went there to shoot that as well. To this, right here in Pune, I don't know if you guys remember, but December 2012, there was a huge traffic jam on one particular day. 50,000 people congregated at the Balewadi Stadium. We were there. And this was the first time we flew a drone, which was sadly 2 months after the Haridwar wedding, which we should have flown a drone for. Yeah. This is who we are typically. I literally am wearing a very similar outfit also. That's me and my brother. But this is who we really are. The company, for all practical purposes, was founded in 1985 when we held those suitcases and we decided to travel the world together. That's our team. I'm proud to say that we are a bunch of young creatives. Our average age, we've grown old now, but our average is between 25 to 26 years old. So we're getting slightly older, but 2 years ago, if I made this presentation, it would have sounded cooler. Why are we together? We're here together to create a legacy way beyond the wedding photographs we make for today. Our goal is always to make images that are not trendy, that are not cool, that are not necessarily, you know, make sense today, but hopefully they'll make sense day after tomorrow. And it's to make things we love. And so what do we mean by this? All of us here in this image want to be wedding photographers. We are not here because wedding photography is a stepping stone to anywhere else. This is it for us, right? So everybody who works with us shares this passion and vision for us. And finally, we want to be authentic and not just creative. So how did I get here? The V is over. Let's talk about me. So a long time ago, there's this word that I've used for myself for the first time in this presentation, and it's right here. Okay. Okay. Sorry. my journey starts here. June 26, 1983. It was one day after India won the World Cup. And then the next day, an even bigger event happened. I was born. Okay, it was like India was shattered. And then, and then this happened, right? I was killed it with my fashion sense and my 7-Up cheddis, right? Uh, and somewhere along the way, I think this was 94, 95. I was 12 or 13 years old. And my Peddamma, my aunt, gifted me a carton full of National Geographic magazines. And this was in the Gulf spill back in the day. She literally just got a whole bunch and she threw it up. I cut those pictures, put them on a scrapbook, and these are a few of them over the course of the next 12 years. So this is The Gulf by Steve McCurry. This is A Polar Bear by Paul Nicklin, one of my favorite photographers. This is the New York Times front page by Vincent Laforet. This is Pete Souza during Barack Obama's 8-year tenure as the President of the United States. This is Joey Lawrence, one of the leading portrait photographers in the world. And this is, of course, Sachin Tendulkar, shot by Atul Kamble as he walks out for his last test match. Cameron Spencer for Usain Bolt just having a really, really good time. Richard Lamb, Istanbul, Ako Datta, Chennai floods, Joe McNally, Annie Leibovitz, Prabhuda Dasgupta. Why am I showing you all this? So over the course, and if you can notice, the images have slightly changed over time, right? These are my inspiration. These are the reason why I started photography. So photography for me started in 2001, long before I became a wedding photographer. Sometime in 2009, early 2009, my sister got married. I Googled the term wedding photographer India. I didn't find anybody. So I decided I'll be the superhero myself, and I did it myself. I really enjoyed it. And without Ashish and Ashwini knowing, behind their back, I sat every day and Googled more wedding photography terms, and I learned all of it. I became a wedding photographer. 6 months I shot. And then eventually, I went up to them. They were my bosses. Still in my head there. It's very odd to look at Sudhir, Ashish, and Ashwin and think that they're not my bosses, you know. They were my bosses, and I said, you know, I want to become a wedding photographer. I remember my direct boss then, Ravi, said, wedding photographer, really? But then these guys said something really different. They said, if you don't do this today, I was 25 years old then, you will never do this again, right? And that stuck. I was like, okay, how bad can it be? No, 2 years later, I'll come back. If you guys don't know, this is right at the turn of the recession just ending. It was a bad time to quit. So then it was like this, okay? So Elephant was like the little master over there. If you only do what you can do, you will never be better than what you are, right? And there I was sitting at Elephant thinking, but I do like who I am, right? Yeah. And then they told me, you don't even know who you are. I had no idea I was going to be a wedding photographer. I really didn't. And then my journey started. But even today, I still say I am not a wedding photographer. I am a photographer who just attends a lot of weddings, secretly shoots them along the way. Why do I say this? Because I think I'm also a romantic fool. I've seen way too many chick flicks for my own good. I am an engineer. I have always been one. I'm a storyteller. I love to talk, and if you keep me on the stage for the next 2 hours, I will. And I'm a business school junkie. I've always loved marketing, branding, design, and advertising, and everything that comes with it. So let me talk about these 4 aspects of my life as different people. So first thing, romantic fool. How many of you guys understand this scene? Yes. Any hands? Thank God. Some Friends fans here. Okay, this is the last episode of Friends. You had to cry here, right? But Rachel got Ross. Ross got Rachel. So this is literally who I am. When I make the images that I make, I want to be able to feel the same things that the bride and groom are growing through at the wedding, right? And when you see them, a third person, somebody who's not at all related to them, you should be able to feel the same emotion as well, right? So let's get down to a few of these things. So this is a slightly well-known actress called Samantha Ruth Prabhu. This is right after the Talikatti, and you could see those tears welling up, right? I'm going to go quickly through these photos. So emotion doesn't just have to be sad. It can be dramatic as well, right? Because just because you romance doesn't mean it has to be always breakups and really sad songs. So it can also mean really happy things. It also means that I'm nostalgic, in the sense that I recognize the fact that weddings are actually not just about, Indian weddings are not just about the bride and groom. It's one of the few times that a lot of generations of families come together. So this is 3 generations in one photo. And hopefully this photo will make a lot of sense way, way, way down the line, maybe 50 years later. Emotional again. And for us, when I'm listening to the father of a bride give a speech, how do you get a photo like this? Do you just sit there and shoot the whole time? You don't. All you do is listen. And then you know when the father says something important which is relevant to the daughter, he is going to do something, right? You feel that emotion. And then, now that we are on the subject of listening, I have a really nice story behind this one. So this wedding, I had 20 other photographers shooting beside me. You know, it's the usual thing. Some uncle gifted photography, some aunt gifted photography. End of the day, 30 photographers ended up there, right? So they told us all to stand behind, you know, in that row, like detention. Wahin se shoot karo. And from here, everybody would come and put like, you know, blessings on the bride and groom. So I was standing there. In Telugu, one of them says, bucket ekkadundi, which means where is the bucket? So it sounds very similar to Marathi, bucket ikade, tikade, kute, sorry. Anyway, so I hear the term bucket and I'm like, this is going to be interesting. So I get out of that line, I go back, I follow that person who said that, and they're bringing a bucket full of ice, 1, water, 2, tomato puree, 3, vinegar, 4, okay? So it's gonna get nasty. So what I do when I get back is I don't go into the photographer line, I go into the guest line. You know, where they're all queuing up to put stuff, because I know once the line ends, shit's gonna go down, for want of a better word, right? So when I go there, I go and sit in front of him, the groom, and the groom's like, hi Joe, what's happening? And then this happens, right? So this is the first time they hit. If you see on a better screen, you will actually notice that his face is clean before all the really, really nasty stuff hit him. And me, but that's fine. This is another case of listening. Do you guys know how North Indian weddings happen? Their Jaimala is thrown, right? Or thrown or put, and usually there's a whole hullabaloo about picking up the bride and picking up the groom, etc. So the bride is a New York Times journalist. She's an active feminist. She doesn't take no for an answer, and she's all for women empowerment. So her sister walks into the makeup room where we're shooting, and she says, Ruchika, who should I tell, who should be ready to pick you up, which one are the brothers, which one are the aunts and uncles, etc. She's like, hey, wait, why have you been picked up? She's like, yeah, well, they're going to pick him up, and then you have to be picked up, and you have to wait for your turn, and then so on and so forth, right? She's like, hell no, I'm doing this, right? She's like, just give me the Jaimala, and I'll do what I have to. So these guys get there. The Pandit is literally just walking up. So I'm the only one who knows this, by the way, apart from that sister. Nobody else knows this. So I walk, and I know she's going to do this. So I just wait for her to get on the stage, and I sit down, and no preamble, nothing. She just goes, throws it like a basketball, right? And I love the groom's brother's reaction over here. He's like, oi, teri, right? Then this is... I was shooting the bride getting in. This is a bit of a confusing photo, but I can explain it to you. I was shooting the bride entering, then I saw the groom's back over there. So I thought, it'll be an interesting perspective to shoot from his angle of view, and he's not supposed to look around, right? So I go there, I point my camera above. In Marathi, it's called the antar part, and I am pointing my camera above it, and he's actually making eye contact with me over there. And he says, Joe, I'm getting goosebumps. Does she look good? Right? And that's the smile on his face. That's the smile of anxiousness and that happy, goosebumpy feeling, right? Yeah, so that part ends the romantic full. The other one now is, I'm very analytical. I love math. I usually get a lot of nasty stares when I say that in a room full of creatives. But I do love math. I love problem solving. And I've always felt that my time as an engineer and my time spent with a communication design company meant that I understood the power of messaging, the power of information put into a frame. How many things can you show in one frame, and how many things can you take out of it? Because isn't that what design is all about? It's communication end of the day, right? So I'm going to show you a couple of things. Let's take this portrait, for example. So I was trying to create an image with this 6'6" tall husband and a superhero wife who's 5'3", and they're two of the world's best photographers. And typically when they go to speak on a stage anywhere, he overshadows her, not just physically, but because of the fact that, everybody is like the guy must be the one making all the images. But Erica is the real soul of the team. So how do I do this? So this is what I do. I put a light on her, I stand 50 feet away, and I compress both of them to put her inside Lanny's head. So it's just a small example, right? So a groom named Bubbles, it's a very funny name, and the guests, the friends had this habit of throwing bubbles at them. So here's an image that shows sheer timing, right? And you have, the thing is, people think that photography or wedding photography is about the big moments, right? It's about those tiny little boring things that happen during the course of the day. And if you let your camera and guard down, you're never gonna get this. A crazy as beep, beep, beep after party, what happens is they open a 3-foot tall champagne bottle, right? It slips out of the groom's hand. And for me, I need to make an image of it all the same. So here I go. That bottle is in the air. And where is it headed? Towards me, right? So right after I take this, I go belly up. Camera goes flying in the air. It comes down. But this is worth the cost of a lens. A fashion designer gets married. We have to make portraits which look like they belong in Grazia or L. We do it. So bride and groom have the haldi at the same time in Mauritius. This one I like a lot. So this one had me running back to my room to get extra gear to make this happen. But this is essentially how it looked like, right? 2 events happening at the same time. A wedding in Mykonos. What's Mykonos like when you close your eyes? It's blue and white, etc. is the bride's portrait. Bride's father, groom's father, uncle, and brother are dancing on stage, and the bride and groom are emoting on the other side. They're reacting on the other side. But I want to show both in one frame. How do I do it? You put a flash on them, find a reflection, and you can have both of them, right? Fancy location, and we come across this a lot, right? So I can't even explain what this location is. It's a bunch of acrylic and mirror things put with a whole bunch of things. Anyway, so we have to make fancy locations look good, which is not tough. Tuscany always looks good. That's the moon. It's not the sun, right? That's the moon at 2 a.m. in Mauritius, and it's shot only with natural light, this shot. The Leela in Udaipur, do justice to the location, the Run of Kutch, or Seychelles, right? Fancy locations, day in and day out. But what happens when you get to a not so fancy location? So these are some of my favorite images made in some of the most boring locations. A corridor outside the bride's room where the groom's friend literally got a whole bunch of champagne. So the light that you see up there is actually a flash hitting it in order to make it look good. This is the wall before the bathroom entry, right before the restroom. That's usually how Indian weddings work. And just in case you thought this was nasty, this is inside the bathroom, right, right afterwards. Yeah, and window light. Just the thing is, it's wedding photography or photography in general is not only about the massive big picture. It's also about the tiny little things that you just may miss track of. Third thing, the storyteller. So I have 4 minutes to go. I'm going to take 10. The storyteller. So I love to talk as the terms and conditions apply here. So while I used to go through these photographs in Nat Geo, these are some of the things I've distilled it down to whatever I've learned for you to really understand what timeless photography is all about. The fact is that today you might see an image made from, I don't know, an Apple iPhone X or anything with fancy background, right? You know how it does that background blur thing, right? Or you might go to a sunset and then shoot the beautiful sunset there. But photography is honestly not about any of that. It's about information. You don't have to have the perfect technique, right? Tomorrow, let's say our honored Prime Minister gets elected for a second term, or maybe doesn't. A bad photo, just a flash-lit, I don't know, the cheapest Android phone photo of somebody reacting to that news is still more powerful than any bokeh-filled photo of anything else. Because information is always trumps technique. Meaning always trumps perfection. You don't need to have a perfect photo, as long as you're telling something important. And timeless beats trendy. Meaning and information lead to the third one, which is timeless. That means that 50 years down the line, people will remember this. Like the images I showed you. Sachin Tendulkar walking down at his last test match, right? That is timeless. Did the photographer do anything magical in there? You know what his secret is? He was there. That's it. He was there. He was not sitting in his bedroom and learning photography. And finally, the ability to balance the art and the profession. I'm going to talk about this at the end. So it's one of my favorite photos. This is a village called Takadgad in Rajasthan. It's a very funny story. Nobody lives in the village. So there are at least 700 homes there. All the homes are empty. Each home is a gift of dowry to the groom. That's it. It's an empty village built for weddings. So when we got there, and this is obviously not the regular bride and groom, right? Because we're shooting it. uh, they flew down in a helicopter and landed in the middle of the village. So people from surrounding villages came to see this. And they were getting out of the chopper, and the usual photography reaction is to go low, take the tele lens, put the helicopter at the back. But I don't know if you guys noticed that Pete Souza photo of the rainbow, right? So I keep asking myself the question, what happens on the day when that rainbow appears? One, do I see it? Two, am I even in a position to capture it? Because most of the time, the photographer standing in front of Barack Obama, he is not standing at the side. Lastly, will I go there in time to capture it, right? And this for me is that rainbow thing, right? So when this was happening, I was like, holy shit, people watching. How do I get all of this in one frame? The next one is a lot more subtle. Kanika Kapoor performs at a wedding. The janitors get a free show, right? For a very expensive rock star. Bride's mom also breaks down. She was this super jovial, happy creature, and she said she won't cry at the vidai. So this was a special one for me. Groom is a funny fellow, right? It takes a while to sink in this photo. I love this one. So I'm sitting right under him, and literally all 175 kilos of Pandit mass stands up on top of me, and he shouts Gatti Melam, which in Tamil means loud music. And I can see all of it jiggling in top of me, right? So I had to shoot it. It's incredible. Oh, I love this. This is the bride's dad getting ready. Information, right? That's what this is all about. Meaning. How can we show you that weddings are bloody tiring? They're not just fun, just because our photos show it like that. So here's the kid who came there for the biryani but had to stay for the haldi. Simpler photo, much simpler photo. I'm only showing this to you because this is, photographically, there's nothing astounding here. There isn't. There's not like some special angle or anything. But just look at every face in this photo. There's either a sense of expectancy that, oh my God, they're walking in, or there's a sense of fun, or there is, in the case of that auntie over there who's the best documentary journalist, photographer, right? Or this girl who's so scared of the pyro. And in the middle of all this, there is the bride hanging on to the groom like he's the hero of her life, and the groom walking out like he's the hero of her life. Look at that. Look at the confidence in his gait, right? Some of you might know this gentleman. Or it doesn't even have to be a fancy event. Even at a smaller haldi, anything else, if you focus on the emotion, you are going to make images like this. Look at the expression of every single person in this photo. That's all that matters. They need not be celebrities. They need not be somebody like super famous. And I get questions like this all the time. Hi, Joseph, sir, you take pictures from your client's perspective, or you just do what you like and that makes you stand unique in the crowd? That silly question, by the way, if you just follow client version, then as a photographer, it doesn't make any sense. Frankly, this entire thing doesn't make any sense. But essentially, she's asking, do you balance, do you only take photos with really small people in the frame, or do you do this as well? What do you do at a wedding? And I say, why can't you do both? It's so short-sighted to think you can only do the one thing. Most of you will know this. Client brief versus version 1, version 2, version 3, where you have hid your best one at the last, put some really bad ones in the middle, so they pick the other one. But that client has really bad taste, so he picks the worst one of the lot, and then you're screwed. So you know this, right? So let's get to this. So I see a photo like this, right? We're in Paris at the Chateau, and we have to make something amazing. Now, what if the bride and groom just delete this photo? Do they have something of meaning as well? So same photographer also shoots this. Now, this is bloody boring. I have not shown you a single photo like this. But why can't I do this? There's a term that we have championed here at Stories called be of service, that I think all of us here in this room sell services, and we sometimes forget the meaning of the word service itself. It means to be of service. And it doesn't hurt me to make both of these. Some for me, some for you, sometimes a lot for you, but always some for me, right? Always. So there's this, it's okay, nothing great, right? But at the same time, and I'm not kidding you, so this action is here. The next photo I'm going to show you is right there. I love this photo. It's so many questions. What is happening here? Is that a phoenix? Is that a Pegasus? Is she using an Android phone? Why are those polythene bags? And why is she wearing that sari? Is she a maid or is she really an old aunt? Right? You don't know. But the thing is, when you put so many questions in your head about the art and profession and bigger things, you might stand the risk of only shooting images like this. Right? But if you don't lose sight of what is interesting in the world around you, you will continue to see these things. Yeah, I really should do something with this photo. And finally, there is the business school junkie, right? This is me. If any of you wants to give me some follows, I have very few followers on Instagram. Please help. But there are three things. There is a gentleman named Guy Kawasaki. He was the evangelist for Apple a while ago. He says that there are three things that every business, especially a service business, should stand for. One is that it should be likable, right? Likable. And his example of likability is that he was the highest tier, platinum plus tier on United. And one day he happened to meet Richard Branson just before he was going to take off. And he said, hey, Guy, why don't you, literally his name is Guy, why don't you fly Virgin, right? And he said, that's because I'm platinum plus tier, right? And he said, what if Virgin can give you the same service? And said, hey, wait, hold on. Richard Branson, and you can Google this, got down on his knees, shined Guy Kawasaki's shoes, and he said, this is what Virgin stands for. That's likability, right? And I have a thing that no matter how many millions and zillions of followers you have on social media, you should always be approachable. Social media is not about just marketing. It's not just about advertising. It's about being a personality online. And for me, that's how I've always used this. And I would like to hope that I'm a likable personality on social media because I am very approachable. The next is quality. Now I can show you this. This is the boring part. The real interesting part is this. Quality for me, while Richard Branson likens it to Apple and its product quality, the term quality gets confused with service quality and maybe awards and how amazing you are. For me, quality is about the kind of people you work with and the kind of people that the client interfaces with end of the day, right? And that's the backbone of stories. That's literally all of us. So we have this wall at Stories. It shouldn't grow too much, but as long as those photos stay there, it's everybody who's ever worked for at Stories. And this is something that I learned from you guys. Back in the day, at Elephant, you still have that photo of everybody who's worked there. I really love it because what is an organization if it is not about the people that it is, that they're working with you, especially if you're a service industry. And finally, that you should be trustworthy. Guy says the best example for this is the fact that Amazon lets you buy a book on its Kindle store and lets you return it after 48 hours. I mean, come on, most average human beings can finish that book, right? Most average people, but they trust you. And they're telling you they trust you, so you trust Amazon back. When you make a bigger decision in your life to spend $80,000 maybe, right? You're like, I trust this company. So for me, trustworthiness has been this. This is the best example for it. If you go online and look at our Instagram handle, not my personal one, the company one, it's Stories by Joseph Radhik. We have about 340,000 followers or something everywhere. But we post once in 2 to 3 months online. And as a social media only firm who does nothing else, this could be death for us, right? But for us, trustworthy means that we give everything to the one client that we serve instead of pandering to the 100,000 outside. If that one client is happy, they're going to give us 5 more, 2 more, 3 more. That's enough. Our entire company runs on this. Again, this is something I learned of being in the design industry, is the fact that, I know how many of you guys have a really poor website, trust me. And I've seen this because I used to do competitive studies, right? Websites which haven't been updated in donkey's years, blogs which are just there for the sake of blogs, Facebook pages that are dead. It doesn't matter. As long as you're making your current clients happy, that's all that matters. And that's one of the biggest things that I learned. So by the way, this chart takes you from November 2010 all the way into 2018, that is July 2018 and going forward. These are clients who just continue to give us clients, 8 years, 6 years, 5 years later. So this is the opposite of the marketing funnel, which is reach a lot of people, get a few clients. This is the opposite. Keep that one client happy, let them grow, and they will give you a lot more. Almost done, okay? Lastly, if you like my photographs and if you want to take a photography yourself, what would be my advice to you? It is to be inspired every day. Photography or learning any art doesn't happen because it's a weekend project. It happens way over time, like way over time. The first time I shot a wedding, I had lived with a camera like my best friend for 9 years now, right? So it's not gonna happen overnight. Most of you would know this, but if I was to give you a fun challenge, it is to make one photo every day for the next 365 days. If you want an even tougher challenge, shoot the same thing 10 times. It's bloody boring. But by the 8th or the 9th time, it becomes like a workout where you start to feel those biceps growing magically out of nowhere, right? Your vision has to change, and that is not going to if you're not going to exercise it. So for me, this is what I do. These are my daily photos. I'm lying, but yeah, I don't spend every day in Leh. But you know, the art of seeing is not just limited to weddings. I go to the world's most beautiful bathroom, I take a photo. I go to France, I don't just shoot the couple. I'm in a plane flying over Tokyo, and the captain says, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see Mount Fuji to the side. I scramble, I take my camera out of the overhead thing, and I sit down again because I know I'm going to get this. And you know, it doesn't stop there. You can, even taking selfies is good exercise, as long as you learn to take better ones. This is a selfie, by the way, on the left side. And then this is one of my favorite subjects. This is my 88-year-old grandmother, and I have a whole bunch of these photos, but I'm only going to show you two. The only way I can photograph her is by cheating, is by telling her to look somewhere else and then taking my phone out and taking a quick photo. This is with my phone. So I tell her to look at the light, and she does. I then tell her that I took her photo, and then she does this, right? It's the little things, but I have a whole collection of these, and perhaps these are the most valuable photos to me. Yeah, and finally, I'm going to end it with this. Last year round, we took a huge decision at Stories. We used to be a wedding photography and wedding filmmaking firm, and we decided that, you know, maybe it's good to be good at only one thing. So we ditched the video bit, and we only do photography today. And we realized that one person's strength is another person's weakness. And if our industry can do this, maybe yours can, right? So this is a happy family of two companies. Together we collaborate when necessary, and we don't. I have that. Thank you so much.